This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Tom Murphy now joins us with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette and Whole Hog Sports. Got a chance to hear from Dave Van Horn yesterday. And Tom, when you asked him about pitching, you didn't necessarily get a clean-cut answer. He talked about a couple different ways they could go about it. What do you expect on Friday when Arkansas rolls out in the mound as a starter?
Yeah, good morning. Good to be with you guys today. Yeah, I'm not sure. The good thing, I guess, from Dave Van Horn's standpoint is both guys have been, quote, the aces on the team. Hollan earlier in the season and then Smith in recent weeks or, couple of months. So either way you go about it, I guess the answer is, you expect to win game one. Who do you want on the mound in game two? And when I said between Hollan and Smith, Dave Van Horn said, yeah, and even Brady Tigert. Now, a guy coming off an elbow strain on 6 days, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure he's feeling great, so maybe Brady Tigert is an option. But I just feel like it's going to go lefty, and then maybe Tigert. But, we'll see. I think that's why they pitched Hollan and Smith, as we talked about last week, in the same game to beat LSU, and have them both ready to go on the opener in game two.
Tom, staying on the subject of pitching, Dave was pretty honest about Gage Wood and said there's a possibility maybe we don't see him this weekend. He said, I don't know if we use him this weekend. Do we see Gage Wood over the course of these next 3, maybe 4 days?
Getting his confidence back up is a big deal because, he closed some games. He closed huge games for you. It's just a coin flip, I suppose. Depends on the types of scores and things like that, how deep you're into your pen. So, I don't know. I'm going to say 50-50 on that one then.
Are you at a point with Tigert where you could bring him in for long relief? And what I was thinking, they started Adcock in game one at the Hoover term. What if Adcock came in and gave you 2 or 3 innings in your first game with Santa Clara? Then you brought in long relief with Tigert. That would be one option. Or you could start Tigert and flip that around. I think a Tigert, Smith, Hollan order this weekend would be something I think would be very intriguing.
It would be for sure. And, I think what's happened with this staff now is they've got so many different options. And by that I mean, McIntyre and Morris could be long relief guys.
Right.
You could start a game 3 with a McIntyre or possibly even a Morris as well. Or a game 4 on this coming weekend. So you do have a lot of different ways. And I think you start from the standpoint of what do we do to get our aces in their best position. So that's Hollan and Smith. And then for Tigert, they've wanted him to start innings clean, not start out under stress. So I anticipate that he would maybe start a game. But I think he's probably at the point in his rehab where he could have a 75-pitch outing. And maybe if you're in a one-run game and you're wanting to save up Hollan or Smith to start the next game, that you could give Tigert a situation to start an inning, a 6th or 7th inning or something, with the understanding he would try to finish out a game. So they both, all these guys except for now Hollan has done it as well. Everybody has started, everybody has closed, so they should be prepared for whatever they need.
And I guess that would kind of be your plan D if you had to play in a 5th game if things didn't quite set up the way you want, and because you've still got to think about all the options, and that might be the unfortunate option that could be on the table. So we'll see. I mean, I like the idea of not using one of your aces in game one. If you're the number 3 seed overall, you shouldn't have to do that in your first game.
No, you should not have to do that. And and another thing to keep in mind is the guys who have the opportunity to pitch twice on the weekend. And so that's McIntyre and, a few other shorter term type relievers. And so, I think McIntyre in game 1 to maybe close out 3 or 4 innings could be an option, because then by, a game 4 or a game 5, they could cycle him back in there. And so, you wouldn't want to hold on to McIntyre for a game 3 because then you wouldn't have the opportunity to use him twice. Might be part of their logic going into this.
Let's talk about hitting. 1 for 11 or 1 for 10 in runners in scoring position against the Aggies. And, Tom, I know that McLaughlin was mentioned, I think, in either the regional or the post-game press conference. And I know that Borfin, Slavens, and Wagner did not have a good game on Saturday. Are we going to see McLaughlin this weekend in a pitch hitting role?
Well, you do want to keep him sharp, and the role that he's played for this team, you can't minimize it because he filled in when they had the worst of their injury situations with 2 of the outfielders out. So I would not want to get through the whole weekend without having him, with a couple of big at-bats. And they've gotten to the situation now where if you're in a tight game, you're trailing by a run in the late innings, you might be able to pinch hit for, either the catchers, Roland, or Polk, and then you might have to pinch hit for, say, the shortstop spot. And not to say that Bolton hasn't been big, but it's good to have him back. And he had a couple of hits in the last couple of games. So I expect that we're going to see Ben McLaughlin hopefully get an at bat or 2 over the weekend.
Tom, we got the college football playoff rankings for football. We've got the net rankings for basketball, RPI for baseball, in addition to the selection committee. How do you think they fared this weekend? Did you like how the SEC had the region? What did you think of this weekend selection show?
Well, just going on like the social media, I guess, outrage meter, it seemed like Campbell might have gotten jobbed that, they had a top 20 type resume, and Auburn got a host bid, and they were the only one outside the top 16 in RPI. I believe that's the case. And if you listen to John Cohen, and if you guys heard the same thing I heard, he kind of admitted that RPI, they use it a ton, but maybe it's not the end all. So, and Dave Van Horn even went into some specifics about how the West Coast schools don't have the opportunity to improve their RPI because you're playing teams regionally during baseball. So I don't know if there's a fix, but you've heard Cohen also say that when you're in the geography of the South, all these teams have easier travel. And so if you look at where all the national seeds were, I mean, there's a huge concentration in the footprint of the Deep South, and then, Arkansas, the edges of the South. And so, Virginia, no Texas schools hosted. So those schools are going to have to, I don't know, maybe schedule season opening tournament type things where they take on teams from the South and teams that are expected to have big RPIs. But, I mean, Arkansas is a good scheduling model for people. When you look back 2 years ago or, last year, they did not have a great RPI. So they made sure to schedule teams that were going to compete for their conference championships. And when you look at Lipscomb and Army and, Wright State, all these teams, Eastern Illinois, they were played well in their conferences. And that was a good omen for Arkansas with its RPI.
Heard the suggestion over the weekend on one of the baseball broadcasts that let's move away from 4-team regionals, have back-to-back weekends of best of 3, and have 32 sites. That would certainly give the committee the wherewithal and the liberty to expand the sport geographically, but also award and reward more teams hosting opportunities in areas outside of the southeast part of the United States.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting proposal, and I don't know how long they're locked into the current format, but something that would be potentially worth exploring to do that. It would open up hosting opportunities. And I saw something on Twitter, I think it was this morning, that the teams that are at the Kentucky Regional might not be in hotels. And I don't know if that's true, but that's a little bit of a weird deal.
Did you see that, Tom?
Yeah, but they're going to be close enough to bus or whatever.
Well, here's the deal. They have a country music festival that's been planned for 6 months in Lexington this weekend, in addition to state softball and baseball games.
Wow.
So they are putting, as Tom just said, in dorms. That's where the athletes from the different regionals, West Virginia, Indiana, and Ball State, Tom, are the teams that are, again, in Lexington. So they are staying in the dorms on campus in Lexington.
But if there's no rooms at the inn, to borrow the phrase, what else is the NCAA supposed to do, Tom? It's not like this was playing where you knew 2 years ago this was going to be there. You didn't really know till maybe 4 to 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, I think it sounds like the only solution they had, except unless they wanted to stay well off site, maybe. So it's unfortunate. When you go to a regional, you expect to have a little bit more. A hotel experience is kind of funner for the guys rather than a dorm. But I'm sure they'll do some entertainment and things like that for those teams to make up for it.
Well, think about the average size of a student athlete, baseball players. I mean, Arkansas's got some guys well over 6 feet. Y'all been in a dorm room. Those single beds are tiny. So I don't think that for Mountaineers and the Ball State people and all that's going to be. They're not exactly going to get the best nights of sleep before Lexington this next weekend.
Tom, the other big news in the conference will come out, I guess, off the beach at Destin, Florida this week. 8 versus 9 games is kind of the conversation a lot of people are having. Is there anything else on your radar that may get decided this week that's being glossed over because the football schedule is dominating the conversation?
Well, if you're like I am, you read up on some stuff yesterday, and I think the penalties for field rushing are going to be a real, heavily focused agenda item for the administrators at the meetings, and they're trying to find a way to reduce the potential for injury. And, Alabama's had a bunch of teams rush the field, and you're trying to get off, and some incidents have occurred. And so I understand they're trying to find a better way to do that. And I even read where, maybe the football team, the home football team, they tell the fans, if we win this game, we're going to go to you. We're going to go in the stands. Maybe that's something you can do, but there has to be the disincentive. And apparently the financial disincentive hasn't been big enough. And so they've got to come up with something else. And I don't know, maybe each school has to basically teach its fans that that's not a cool thing to do. And so I don't know where they'll go with that, but the schedule deal is a big, big thing. And if you guys have been reading what I've been reading, it looks like they might go for a 1-year, stopgap solution, because the ESPN has not come off the financial bonus to have a ninth game. And if they're not going to come off that, why give them, the schools that favor an 8-game schedule don't want to play a ninth if there's not a bigger financial incentive. And so, it helps you have the potential for a better record as opposed to another SEC loss for half of the schools. Yeah. So it sounds to me like they might be going for a short-term measure here before the Oklahoma and Texas edition.
Yeah, which should divisions be brought back into the conversation? Sounds like that's dead, not even an option. You'll have Missouri as your one common opponent, then rotate through everybody else. But to me, why go to 9 games if there's no financial reward? What's the point? You've got to get something financially out of it, because just having competitive balance with other leagues for the playoff purposes, you're going to have to prove to me that it really costs you a seat at the table in the 12-team format until you go that direction. There's got to be something in it financially to or you never get to play that card again, and you give it away for free.
I agree with you, Tommy. And, there's other factors at work here that I read that ESPN's going through some layoffs and that they might kind of continue through the summer. And they don't want to get over-leveraged with their finances. And so that's why they're, slow playing, adding a financial incentive. So I'm sure those talks are ongoing. And, if I'm an SEC member, and I think South Carolina – I read yesterday that had kind of been maybe in favor of 9, but if there's no more money to be had, then they certainly would favor 8. And I've also read, you've heard Sam Pittman say that he's not opposed to the 9, but that also felt like it was when it seemed inevitable. And if you're Arkansas, 8 games better for you in terms of the chance to get another win. If you're looking at bowl eligibility, and I think Kentucky's been kind of the banner carrier for wanting to stay at 8. So it seems to me like they might put something together short term, and then maybe if they can get a different terms of the contract, that they would go to 9 games later on.
It's too early to tell, but I hope we don't come to the conclusion that it's a mistake by the SEC to partner with only one TV provider or one network with ESPN. I understand they have ABC, but your eggs are in one basket with one company where you've been with CBS and ESPN. Other leagues are forming partnerships with multiple providers. The Big Ten's got themselves in a legal quandary right now. But nonetheless, I hope we don't look back in a year or two and say, it was really a mistake to only have one network as your partner.
Yeah, I hope you're right. And also for the folks who are, purists in terms of the broadcast, CBS brought a lot of things to the table with their technical quality. Matt Jones of Whole Hog Sports, who's with the ADG as well, talks about that a lot. And I don't as much watch for those types of things, but the technical quality of the broadcast, CBS has been,
exactly
cutting
right.
edge, basically.
It's best broadcast of the day. It's not close.
BetOnline.ag is your number one source for all your basketball info, stats, news, and scores. Get the latest odds and lines, including the latest player reports for this year's pro basketball playoffs. BetOnline is always your sports information headquarters this season, as we have you covered for all your sports wagering needs. Basketball, MLB, NHL hockey, right down to UFC and boxing. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to get your betting info, including live betting options and your favorite casino and card games you can play right from your home. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Be sure to use our promo code BELIEVE to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's BLEAV. BLEAV. Bet online, where the game starts.